Hey everybody, Alex here, otherwise known as YaBonks, and on today's episode of the YaBonks Show, I have a very interesting AMA for you about a new decentralized exchange on Binance Smart Chain called Aequinox. And you might actually be familiar with the creators of Aequinox. They are the same team that brought us Aalto protocol as well as Ames DeFi, two very popular protocols that have been running on BSC network. And today I am here with Nice Person, otherwise known as Jules, and he is the leader of the Aalto and Ames team and also Aequinox. So Nice Person, do you want to say hello and introduce yourself a little bit to the audience?
Thank you very much for the stage, YaBonks.
You're welcome.
I appreciate, I appreciate you letting me be here and stuff. My name is Jules, and I am part of the team. We have a four-man team. We've been running Aalto and Ames for about almost 6 months right now. Ames is kind of like a tomb fork, and Aalto is a rebaser token that we have. And we are pegged on Ames right now as we speak, actually. So that's pretty cool. And we're looking forward to having this decentralized exchange as kind of like a center pin for our ecosystem, because DEXs will always have utility into the future regardless of market conditions. So having that platform that can act as like a center chain link for the other protocols that we have is always good.
Yeah, I think what you've done so far with Ames lately, if anybody is watching this basically in the same time period that I will be posting this, Ames just got back to peg. And for anybody familiar with tomb forks or seniorage protocols, that means their token, which they've pegged to BUSD, has gotten to peg again, and now the boardroom is printing ASHARE. So this is super cool. It's something I've been watching for weeks now, and I have some Ames tokens myself, so I'm really glad to see this. And Aalto also has been doing very well lately, and if I go to I might have to connect my wallet here, but last I checked, Aalto was at like $4.50, and this has been going on for months, and the bank has been printing this entire time. So I actually covered Aalto on my YouTube channel a month or two ago, and I've been working on a video for Ames as well, but I thought that Aequinox, since it is launching on August 8th, I thought it would be important to get you on here so you can talk about it, because you're currently doing your seed funding round for venture capital, for angel investors who are looking to get a premium by providing the initial liquidity for your decentralized exchange Aequinox. And I believe you're currently in your Series A funding round. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, correct. We are in the A round right now. The cutoff for transferring in funds or pledging funds is on the 7th of August, so one day before. We want to have a little bit of buffer time to form all the necessary LPs and interact with the contract to make sure everything rolls out well with the initial liquidity. So how it works is, once you decide the amount that you want to come in with, and then you contact one of the team members, we will negotiate a premium for the amount that you're coming in with. Right now, the lowest amount that we got in is about 20 to 30K, and then it goes all the way up to about 100 to 200K for the capital investment. So obviously, if you put in more, you get a better premium. If you put in less, you get a little bit less. But that's all negotiable. And then you transfer in the funds to the protocol, and then we will form the initial liquidity and give you LP tokens in the form of the veAEQ tokens. So I suppose we'll cover that later on.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll get back to that. Yeah. And if there are any investors who are looking to get into that, you can also get in touch with me, and I can put you in touch with Nice Person or any of the other team members. I've been friends with Nice Person here for a couple months now, and I stay in close contact with him. So if anybody's interested in this, let me know and I'll put you in touch as well. So before we dive into all that stuff, do you want to give me a quick elevator pitch for what Aequinox DEX is?
Yeah. So the Aequinox DEX, right? It's unlike any traditional DEXs. I think a lot of people are familiar with the way a Uniswap and PancakeSwap works, right? You have your two token pools, you swap between one or the other, then you provide liquidity and you get a bit of liquidity mining rewards. Now, we actually use the Balancer infrastructure to create our DEX, which means you can have more than two tokens in a pool. You can have up to 8 tokens in a single pool, and you can have weighted pools. So you not necessarily have to have 50-50 on a pool. You can have, for example, if you would like to increase your exposure to BTC, you can have 80% BTC in a pool, but and you only want like 20% ETH or something. So you can have 80-20 pools, 60-40, anything. All of the ratios are adjustable, and you have the ability to add multiple different tokens to the same pool. So you can think of the Aequinox DEX as a self-governed crypto index fund that automatically balances itself, and while you're doing that, it earns yield because you're providing liquidity to the decentralized exchange.
So
yeah,
this is similar to what Balancer does on the Ethereum network, and Balancer, Balancer is a pretty complicated protocol overall. It's not as straightforward as like a Uniswap or a PancakeSwap style decentralized exchange. It has a lot of I don't even know how to say technically complicated mechanisms going on that allows both liquidity providers as well as retail traders just using the swapping utility. It has benefits for both parties here. So, for instance, you were saying I could, as a liquidity provider, I could provide liquidity into not just like a liquidity pair token in a liquidity pool, but I could basically provide liquidity that I could earn yield on in a liquidity pool of mini assets, not just two, but like, for instance, if I wanted a portfolio that contains like Bitcoin, BNB, BUSD, USDC, and I wanted to kind of split my investments across all of those and then earn liquidity fees for people using your decentralized exchange, I could do that on Aequinox. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is exactly right. So that's the main attraction for retail investors, as well as what would you say, like hedge fund managers and I guess independent asset managers. So that's the whole idea. You want to have a portfolio, and you don't want to be forced to be 50-50 on a certain token. You want to have a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of Ethereum, a little bit of something else. So you can manage your own risk with regards to what tokens you want to comprise your this portfolio, and then you put it up as liquidity. And when you do that, you earn a small percentage of the swap fees, as well as any liquidity mining rewards that are given to that pool.
I see. And let me pull up here in your documentation. You have some core pools here that they are the core liquidity mining pools. And it says 70% of the total emissions are dedicated to the core pools. And so a lot of this might be new for my listeners. This is an advanced topic. So I've read through all of the code for PancakeSwap v2, which, stems from Uniswap, and you see a lot of DEXs coming out these days that are PancakeSwap v2 forks or clones. They're technically forks, but they're very seldomly modified in any meaningful way. But we've never seen a DEX on Binance Smart Chain like Aequinox before, which is very similar to Balancer over on the Ethereum network. So am I saying that right when I say that there's no other DEX on Binance Smart Chain like this?
Yes, correct. There is no other DEX that has this ability to like rebalance pools and have create multi-token pools on Binance Smart Chain. There is a project that tried to do it, but they're not doing so well now, so they have very low TVL. So I would say there is Equinox is filling a significant gap in the market on Binance Smart Chain in particular, because the two other successful balancer forks are on Phantom, and I think Polygon is the other one. So yeah, on Binance Smart Chain, there's definitely a gap in the market. And because of recent market conditions, I'm sure a lot of people here know that a lot of volume or a lot of money is flowing from other blockchains into Binance Smart Chain, or the popular blockchains like Binance Smart Chain, and I think Phantom even has had problems with their trading volume and stuff. So definitely this is filling a market gap on Binance Smart Chain. So that's exactly like why we wanted to create Balancer DEX instead of a normal Uniswap fork. And also there is the insane flexibility that you have with a Balancer DEX, right? Is so good for project developers. So it's not only good for investors and retail investors to come in and self-manage and self-govern their portfolios that balance by themselves. But at the same time, because you have these like multi-token pools, you can create ETFs, you can create index funds, you can have projects that build on top of a deck and buy very volume through this. And at the same time, they have that flexibility to make their liquidity pools or pairings more advanced or more sophisticated than just the vanilla 50-50 that you get on Uniswap or PancakeSwap.
So your audio kind of cut out there for a second. You said for projects that trade on this DEX, they get more benefits than just a regular DEX. Could you say that part again?
Yes. So projects that build on this DEX, they have that flexibility, right? You can have weighted pools, so you can have 80-20, 60-40 and stuff. You're not confined to the vanilla 50-50 LP pools of traditional Uniswap or PancakeSwap forks. You have that flexibility. You can add more tokens. You can create index funds. You can do all sorts of very cool things. Especially, okay. So here's another technical point about the Balancer DEX, right? The liquidity pools are not just one type. There's many types. So for example, I'll give you an example. There's this concept of a stable coin pool or stable pool in the Balancer setup or the infrastructure. So what that does is it uses a different kind of math to ensure that the price of the stable coins that are in that pool always remain at $1, right? Because it's supposed to be pegged to USDC. Now, if you go onto PancakeSwap or Uniswap and you form $10 of USDC and BUSD right now, if you buy $1, it's going to affect the price of the BUSD in the other pool, and then it's going to force market arbitrage in order to keep the $1 accurate, right? Now that's not the case in a balancer setup. In a balancer setup, what you can do is the stable coin pool or the stable pool can have low liquidity, but because of the way that the stable math works, when you're swapping through that pool, you can still maintain the price of $1 and have little to no slippage. Yeah.
Okay. And I've actually I tried to take profit on another DEX that has low liquidity in the USDC pool, and I was actually trying to sell I was actually trying to buy a token using my USDC, and the slippage was crazy. Like I would end up losing 4 to 5% just trying to buy this token because I wanted to use USDC rather than BNB, which they had a deep liquidity for. So you're saying this kind of a mechanism would prevent situations like that happening?
Well, it will certainly mitigate it to a large extent. When it comes to liquidity, nothing can be mitigated 100%, right? Meaning you cannot guarantee no slippage. But what you can do, because of the way that the not just the stable pools, but the entire balancer, the way that it routes tokens through the smart contract, it optimizes for as minimal slippage as possible. So it doesn't just fetch which pairing has the most liquidity and then sends you through that. It also aggregates all of the tokens from all of the liquidity pools inside on the DEX, and then it finds out what is the best possible slippage to give you based on everything, not just the pair that you want to go through.
I see. And that's so this AMA is, as I was saying, is probably is going to be more technical than I think a lot of people out here are used to, and I think that's a good thing because this can be a super educational topic. And there are things like Balancer on other networks. And this is a super advanced protocol. And this is like next level decentralized exchanges. And what it allows is what you were saying, where all of these pools are kind of combined, and
Yes.
your decentralized exchange can intelligently figure out the cheapest and most effective way to get you
Yes.
what you want for whatever you're trying to swap.
Yes, that's pretty much spot on. That I think you nailed it with that description. So
Okay.
there is this concept. Without getting too technical, there's this concept in our setup which we call the Conflux. So the Conflux basically is just like the brain center, and you can think of it as the main battery for an entire electrical grid. And all of the liquidity pools are all generators. So what happens when you run all these generators parallel to each other and they generate a ton of voltage? If you're using just one generator, there is a, let's say, limit to how much you can put through that generator. So in using that analogy, there's a limit to how much you can swap on that particular liquidity pair. But if you combine everybody's voltage, then you can have large swaps with little to no price impact and little to no slippage, because you're using the power of the collective rather than just that single liquidity pool.
Okay, so on Balancer, for instance, I see multiple pools here that have, wrapped Ethereum, as well as, USDC and other things in multiple different forms. So on the back end, in the contract itself, these values aren't trapped inside of liquidity pair tokens. They're actually aggregated into one TVL in a contract, and then the Conflux is the algorithm, is the contract that intelligently decides, okay, if we've got somebody who's provided liquidity in this pair, somebody's provided it in this batch of assets, and over here, it says, okay, if I want to come and I want to sell, or I want to swap, let's say, my ASHARE, say I've been farming ASHARE on Ames, but I want to get USDC for it, your Conflux contract will find the cheapest, most efficient way for me to go from my ASHARE to this USDC here without actually making multiple transactions. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, that's correct. So it gets a little bit better.
Okay, go for it. Yeah, you explain, because this is fascinating to me.
Okay, so it gets a little bit better than that. So on a traditional DEX, what if you use this example that you're using there, ASHARE BUSD, right, is the main pair, and then BUSD is paired with USD on another pool. What traditional DEXers would do is they'll swap your ASHARE for the BUSD, then they'll swap the BUSD for the USDC. That means you're paying swap fees twice. That means you're paying slippage twice, and then you are subject to the liquidity of both of the pools, right? If one has low liquidity, other one has higher one, then you take higher slippage on one, and you basically are hit with slippage twice. Now that's not the same thing for Balancer. What it does is it goes into the Conflux, and the Conflux says, hey dude, we already have USDC here. I'm just going to give you the straight USDC without having to swap through the BUSD, and then I'll take the BUSD from that pool as and hold it in the Conflux itself and aggregate with all the other BUSD that exists on the DEX. So you're basically just making one swap straight to USDC, but for the purposes of slippage or swap fees, you're basically just making one transaction because you're just interacting with the Conflux. Now the Conflux does all of the internal accounting and intelligently decides which pools where to take your USDC from, basically.
And to me, that seems like a very logical way to do it. You would just need to have an intelligent accounting mechanism internally to track the different amounts and who has provided what liquidity where, and then kind of just manage, I guess, those balances internally in the most optimized and efficient manner, so that way nobody's values get out of whack. Now, when I think of liquidity values getting out of whack, I think of impermanent loss. Does a system like Aequinox or like Balancer, are those systems affected by impermanent loss like we see in traditional liquidity pairs?
So in traditional liquidity pairs, impermanent loss is more pronounced. So you can never completely eliminate impermanent loss, because the fact is, if X amount of tokens are exiting the entire market, not just on one DEX, right? The entire market, if X amount of tokens are exiting and there's more exiting than there is entering, then the price of that token aggregated across all of the places where it exists will go down. But the benefit of our system on Equinox is that you can leverage your risk, or like you can leverage your risk against high volatility coins by pairing more of the stable coins. So for example, if you want some exposure to Aalto or ASHARE, right? You can have like a 20% Aalto, and then you can have 80% of a stable coin. So your exposure to a more volatile asset is lower. Now, the way that liquidity pools work, why it's so cool is you can have a pool where it's 80% a volatile coin and 20% of a non-volatile coin, like a stable coin. And that means because there's more of the risk on asset, which is the volatile coin, the way that the Conflux handles it just makes the price more stable. So it's harder to move up or down because there's more of that token in existence. So there's more there's a larger pool for the Conflux to draw from when people swap that or interact with that token.
And is that why I see like the core pools, they have that type of an allocation where like your ASHARE BUSD pool has 70% ASHARE to 30% BUSD?
Yes, so that is exactly right. So the
that
whole
cuts
idea
down
there
on volatility then.
Yes, that cut. So one, it cuts down volatility. Second, it allows for a deeper liquidity pool. Because since you're using so traditionally, if let's say you got 100 BUSD and you got $100 worth of ASHARE, you can only form $200 worth of liquidity, right? But now, if you have $100 worth of BUSD, you can form a lot more liquidity because there's more ASHARE in the pool.
So and the price of that ASHARE, would that still be similar to on other DEXs at the same time?
Yes, correct. Because there's an oracle that reads and fetches the price using TWAP. I think a lot of people already know what TWAP is. It's time weighted average price, which aggregates the price over like a stipulated amount of time, so that spot prices are not so volatile. So what you would do if you go to DEX Screener and you take like a random coin and then you see all of the places where it's being traded on, you get a lot of price discrepancy on it. But on Equalizer DEX, Equinox DEX as well as Balancer type DEXs, you don't really have that as much.
So here's ASHARE, and so if it's looking good, by the way. I wish I would have bought some down here.
Oh ye of little faith.
What's that?
Oh ye of little faith.
More like oh ye of little money right now. But someday I will be a whale. You'll all see. I'll show you all. But yeah, so if you just take the spot price of an asset like this, and that can cause potential issues in certain protocols, and like say for instance a seniorage protocol like a tomb fork like Ames. If somebody were to use like a flash, like this is something I've learned from reading so many code audits when I'm analyzing protocols. A lot of the auditors will talk about using Oracle prices in a time-weighted average fashion. So they recommend using TWAP, time-weighted average price, versus spot price, because the spot price can be manipulated in an instant, allowing people to do things like a flash loan attack, where they will use a flash loan to manipulate the price of an asset for a split second at the exact second that they execute another trade, taking advantage of that inflated or deflated price to either buy an artificial super dip that they've created, or to sell an artificial price escalation that they've created for that split second in time. And you're saying your Aequinox DEX will be using, where necessary, Oracle time-weighted average prices. And for people who don't know, an Oracle is a service that grabs the price from different places. And I believe the best kinds are the ones that pull the price from multiple locations. So it's not just pulling the price from one place, it pulls it from multiple places. Is that correct too?
Yep. So yeah, that's correct. So you can ask the Oracle to fetch from many different places, and then including but not limited to CoinGecko, CMC, and all of that. So you can use other DEXs as a benchmark to how much the value of a token is. So that's another benefit of the Oracle. It's like you're getting the correct price essentially of a token.
Awesome.
Because you're not just looking at the liquidity pair in question. You're looking at a whole bunch of liquidity pairs. You say, what's the price across all of these? Okay, then this is the fair price that it should be right now at this moment.
And are there any other benefits to using this kind of pricing?
So yeah, there's many things, right? So over here you can see Oracle weighted pool, and then you can see stable pool. So that's just like some of the basics. There's also different kinds, like there's a meta stable pool, there's like the multi-token pool, and then the multi-token pools also have oracles attached to them. So it all gets really rather complex. But basically the objective that this infrastructure is trying to achieve is that you are able to get the best prices at the most optimized swapping, meaning the least slippage and the least price impact.
Okay. And this also protects you from external price manipulation, right?
Yeah, it also protects you from flash loan attacks. So how you described it earlier was exactly correct. In order for the flash loan, using TWAP instead of spot price protects against flash loan attacks.
Got it. Cool. Okay. And so this is interesting. Now, can you explain to me the differences in the swap fees here for the different core pools and this whole emissions allocations? Can you explain these differences here?
Okay, cool. So under swap fees, you will see that I'll just use the third one as the example first, the BUSD, USDC, USDT. So the industry average for this is about 0.3% swap fee. So we brought it down to 0.2, which is actually less than PancakeSwap. So the idea here is that it's going to be a lot more beneficial, a lot more lucrative for people to put up liquidity in our pool versus PancakeSwap or our other competitors. And also, you want to have as little swap fees on stablecoin pools as possible, because you don't want people to suffer slippage when they trade on your DEX, especially on stablecoins. So we've decided to go for really low swap fee for the stablecoin pairings. And for the second one, you can see there, BNB and BUSD, it's 0.3%. That's about industry average. That one's necessary. You always need to have the blockchain native tokens. So BNB for Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum for Ethereum Network, matic for Polygon, etc., etc. You always need to have this paired with the predominant stablecoin on that particular blockchain. For in our case, since we're on BSC, it's BNB and BUSD. Now the first one over there, you can see AEQ-WBNB. That is our main pool. It's going to be front and center, and it gets most of the emissions. Emissions are basically rewards. It's like how if you pair on PancakeSwap, you get cake for their core pools. So only core pools on the Equinox will receive reward allocation, reward allocations. So the reason for that is because these are the pools that we want to incentivize people to make liquidity on, because these are the most important, let's just say most important pools for the entire ecosystem to function, right? You need your try crypto stables. You need a bunch of stable coins so that people can freely trade stable coins without suffering price impact. You need to have the ability for people to get BNB from BUSD or BUSD from BNB on your DEX as well. And then AEQ is our DEX token, our governance token. So that's definitely the one we want to incentivize the most, because we want a deep liquidity on this. That also leads into the reason why we have this A round liquidity VC campaign. So we really want to have a very large, thick depth of liquidity in the beginning, right off the bat, instead of what you usually see with DEXs that randomly launch because they're PancakeSwap, Fox, or whatever. They don't really have a lot of liquidity on the main DEX token, so that really hurts them, because that makes it easier to pump it up. And then if usually after investors see a pump it up, it's like they don't want to enter already. So it's actually a better model for sustainable development if your initial liquidity is very deep.
Okay, and that's I guess that leads me to the tokenomics here. So the initial liquidity, it says here 1 million tokens allocated to the initial AEQ/WBNB pairing, and that initial liquidity is going to be raised during the Series A and Series B seed rounds. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So the initial liquidity will be from the Series A, and then whatever tokens that are left over, meaning not used, then will roll over to the Series B and be allocated to that. And then we'll try to get as much as liquidity as possible during the A round and B round, as well as the liquidity driver event, which we'll have. And then that's what it is for our initial liquidity. So we're looking at the launch price about $5. So 1 million tokens, about $5 million worth of liquidity, which is very nice. Yeah, so we want to have that, and if we don't reach that, we can just roll over to B round and then continuously fuel the building up of the liquidity over time.
Gotcha. Okay, and yeah, $5 million is a lot of liquidity. I don't think I've seen any project in the time I've been out here on Binance Smart Chain launch with that much liquidity. Not even other DEXs. So that's a very ambitious goal. However, I think a lot of people are familiar with your team's work with Ames and Aalto. So I personally know a lot of whales in both projects that you are running. So I have faith and when you tell me something, I don't take it for granted.
So yeah, that's the thing. So the idea is that you want to aim for that deep liquidity. So we'll get as much as we can out of that. We'll use as many of those 1 million tokens right there you can see as we can, and whatever is not used, we roll over to the B round, continue to build up that liquidity. So we understand, right? Market conditions and all of this stuff is very hard to get such a massive influx of money without, let's say, an institution backing your liquidity. Now the thing is, if we have at least a good liquidity in the beginning, let's say about $1 million to $2 million, then we can slowly build up the rest. And on that journey, we can then approach institutional VCs like the Binance Foundation and all that, and we can show them, hey, look, we started with this good liquidity and we're building it up. Here are the projections for our trading volume on the DEX as well as liquidity. Will you come in and back us more? And when they see that, then it becomes very. It's like we have something to show for it, right? We're not just asking them based on a promise. We have something to show them that we're doing well. So then they'll be more likely to come in. And if a large VC provider like that comes in, then it's going to be way more likely that other VCs of that amount is going to come in as well. So that's what we're going for with this liquidity breakdown.
Okay, sounds good. And the rest, I guess, while we're here with the tokenomics, so when this launches, it says there will be 2 million tokens allocated to the core team vested linearly over 2 years with a 2% initial allowance. Do you want to explain that a bit and also talk about any other forms of team compensation? I know that's a hot topic these days. So do you want to just talk about team compensation and the vested team allocation here?
Yeah, sure. So the only team compensation we have will be what's listed here on the white paper, which is the vested team allocation of 8%. 8% is actually way lower than the industry standard, which is about 15 to 16. Just for reference, Balancer's tokenomics, their team allocation was 15, and Beats on Beethoven X, I think some of you might know, on Phantom, I think that the allocation is 13. So ours is actually only 8. But yeah, we decided to go with this amount because it's already a lot of money, right? And we vest the tokens across 2 years, and then there's an initial allowance of 2%. Beats has that as well, and yeah, I think it's a fair allocation. 8% is already quite low in compared to the industry standard, and the fact that they're vested is also another thing that has to be done so that that the team can't just dump tokens in the beginning. Right,
and I guess one of the reasons this is such a hot topic is because we've seen a lot of other DEXs that have launched, and people say, oh, you can just fork a pancake swap and change a few things and launch it. And for those listening, I've read through all of Pancake Swap's code and everything, and sure, you can fork that, and if you know operationally how to deploy all those contracts, set up all the multi-sigs, create a front end, reskin everything, do all that, and then market it and take it to market, that's obviously easier than starting something from scratch. However, this is not a Pancake Swap fork or clone at all. Balancer is a very complicated DEX, and there's nothing like it on Binance Smart Chain. So when people say, oh, we got these protocols out here forking Pancake Swap and then taking all this, all this for the team allocation or paying themselves these big salaries, do you kind of want to explain how complicated Balancer is and the level of work involved in getting something similar to this working on BSC?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you can just look at statistics, right? There's a reason why there are so many Uniswap and PancakeSwap forks out there. Literally every single day, there's random ones just coming out of nowhere. But there's like 5 or 6 Balancer forks, and they're not even forks. It's like even the code itself. You can clone the repo and stuff, but in order to launch it and like have it all set up, there's a significant portion of the code where you have to really, really understand what it does. You got to set up your own subgraphs. You got to set up your own like servers to host all of the information and the data that will be stored every time somebody interacts with your contract and stuff. It's not easy task, and yeah. So there's that, and the fact that there's only like 5 or 6 DEXs out there that are based on the Balancer infrastructure should tell you that it's not easy to fork that, and you can't do it in a day. I mean, I think you can probably hire someone for Fiverr to fork PancakeSwap or Uniswap in a day, but definitely not Balancer, man.
Yeah,
there is like a high barrier for entry to trying to set up a Balancer-style DEX.
And I think that's why I haven't seen anything like this on BSC, and I do a lot of my trading on BSC just because there's the most there's the most money here, and gas fees are relatively cheap, and I'm confident in Binance. I think they're going to be around for a while. Not financial advice, obviously. Who knows what's going to happen? But I haven't seen anything like this before. And you included in your documentation some of the math going into this and how like the reward structure works. It is so different from PancakeSwap. It's very intimidating. I feel like I'm in senior year at university for computer science engineering again when I was reading through your documentation. And you add some humor in here. You're talking about Merkle trees, and I'm sure a percentage of the people listening will know what a Merkle tree is, but I thought it was funny that you called you said a Merkle orchard here. I'm a nerd, I guess. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, this is not like a pancake swap at all. Balancer is crazy complicated. I've seen other people in smaller protocols on Binance Smart Chain use some of Balancer's code that you see here in some of this, some of the math that you use for like the weighted pools and stuff like that. I've seen other protocols try to incorporate this in different ways in smaller protocols, not full-blown DEXs, but and like I've seen another seniorage protocol use Balancer's weighted pool math in coming up with like an ETF style token contract. And I thought that was very cool. And you're doing this on a full-blown DEX scale with weighted liquidity pools for, you know, people to use for swapping, for farming, and all of that on Binance Smart Chain. I don't know. I just wanted people to, I just wanted to point out with all the drama going on with people saying, oh, it's so easy to fork a DEX these days. This is not one of those situations.
Yep.
So yeah, I just wanted to point that out for anybody saying, oh, another DEX, blah, blah, blah. This is not a pancake swap.
Yeah, they're definitely for sure. I mean, you can you can try, man. A lot there. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are devs and stuff. There's a reason why Balancer is not forked. Like that's it's a monumental task in and of itself.
Yeah, and I just operationally, the amount of smart contracts that have to interact with each other and getting that all set up right operationally, even without modifying things for your own custom stuff, it's not an easy task. So just wanted to point that one out. And then let's go back to the tokenomics here. So, you know, that's how the team's compensated. And then we have strategic partnerships and marketing. You're going to have 2 million tokens for that.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about this. This is quite fun.
Sure.
So when we say strategic partnerships and marketing allocations, it encompasses the usual, like sometimes you pay for marketing, sometimes you pay other like treasuries or protocols who want to partner with you, blah blah, with your tokens, and you do a token exchange or a mutual investment, etc., etc. All of that is there. But what's interesting about this particular setup is that, for example, if a project wants to have us host their liquidity on our DEX, then they want to put up some of their native tokens as rewards. If we come to an agreement and we negotiate, we can actually provide from this allocation some of our tokens as rewards to that liquidity pool as well. So what that does is it benefits both parties, right? Their investors are incentivized to make liquidity and form liquidity for their token on our DEX. And for us, it drives trading volume through our DEX. So we want to get we want all of it, bro. We want everybody to just come to us. Everybody can come and make liquidity. We have as much trading volume as possible on our DEX. And that in turn will increase the rewards from the trading fees and all of that to the V token holders.
Now, do you want to jump into the V token holders and what that means?
We probably should. That's gonna be quite a long part.
Okay, so let me pull up the Aequinox Dynamo, where I think you touched on this. You got the Emperor here with talk about unlimited power. So you state that the Aequinox Dynamo is a yield amplification platform that will allow investors to lock their AEQ/wrapped BNB APTs, which I believe means Equinox Protocol tokens, for various timeframes to get veAEQ tokens. Now, do you want to explain what that all means?
Yeah, okay, so I'll just do a very quick summary. Most of the detail is on this page itself, but literally what it is you just lock your AEQ wrap BNB tokens. Once you form the liquidity, you lock them for, you can choose 14, 30, 60, 90, 365 days. And then in return, you get veAEQ. Now, once you hold veAEQ, you can use that veAEQ to vote for your favorite pools. So, for example, you got a bunch of V tokens with like 100 power. So you can use that 100 power to direct emissions towards your favorite stablecoin pool. So yeah, it's like the curve wars, the bribing system, and all of that. You by locking up your tokens, you're contributing to the eternal liquidity of the protocol, right? So in you are rewarded for doing that by having the ability to say or to have a say in where the APRs go. So by boosting a certain pool, you can actually increase the APRs of that particular pool by the amount of your voter. So that's the whole idea there, is that you can, it's like the community itself can choose which are the pools that where they want the high APR to go.
So in my head, I'm trying to picture how this would work in different scenarios. So say a bear market happens. I could see people who have the veAEQ token. So they have the voting tokens. I can see a bunch, maybe the majority of the veAEQ holders voting for stable pool stablecoin pools to have the most emissions. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, so that's a yeah, you nailed it, man. So generally, roughly speaking, what the most of the people who are on Balancer-style DEX is what they believe to the optimal strategy to be. It's about half of your capital investment you put into the AEQ pool, and then you get your veAEQ, right? So then you use that to vote for whichever pool you like the most, and then you use your remaining the other 50% of your capital investment as cash flow to get into that pool with the high APR. And then every week there's the voting thing, right? And then the APR shift around a bit. So then you can get out of the lower APR pools and move to the ones with the high APR. So there's that gamification layer where you can actually interact with the protocol itself and have a say as to which pools should have the most APR. So you can use this V system to direct emissions from the rewards.
Awesome. So that's pretty cool, the gamification layer of it. So if I'm understanding this, you're saying in the Balancer ecosystem, it seems a common strategy is for stakers to go half into the V token, and then half into whatever pool is their favorite, and then they use that voting power they get from the V tokens to vote for more emissions into whatever pool that they have their other 50% into, and then as a group kind of consensus, you can kind of see market sentiment changing by which pools are getting voted to have the most emissions during any period of time.
Yes, so that's exactly correct. So usually in a bear market, especially once you reach to the very, very fearful area, you kind of see more people flood into stablecoins. So then this whole system allows the rewards to adjust themselves, because the market decides, right, hey, we want to get into all the stablecoins now. All of the voting power is going towards that. Then people can flood into that. And then when the market lightens up a bit, and there is more demand for risk-on assets like let's say more volatile coins or altcoins, yeah, then you will see the APRs naturally move towards the more volatile assets.
And I'm looking at Balancer right now, and I'm not sure if I'm interpreting this correctly on the screen, but it looks like in their V-Balance page, it looks like the wrapped matic pool here is has been voted, has gotten more votes lately, and we've seen at the time of this recording that the markets have popped up a little bit. I think BNB's up 5% in 24 hours. Bitcoin's up a few percent as well. And I'm guessing matic and all the other altcoins. And it looks like it might be showing here now in the V-Balance voting that some people are moving their votes over towards the matic pool because they're probably moving some of their liquidity over to matic now. That's Is my assessment here? Am I guessing correctly?
So it's pretty cool, right? So you can think of the entire V system as allowing the rewards to adapt to the market. So instead of us having to adjust the Equinox rewards manually or have fixed rewards or fixed emissions for certain pools, the market can decide. So the community can decide which ones are more popular, and the overarching market sentiment will then affect that as well. So like as you described earlier, matic has seen a pretty strong pump from, I think it was 0.4 something or 0.5 something, and now it's about almost $1. So people want matic. So the fact that people want matic means people would more likely to be form liquidity using matic on the DEX. Then as a consequence of that, you can use the V system to vote for those liquidity pools that contain matic to get more rewards. And then so it's like you're optimizing your yield in that sense. So traditionally what you would do, right, is you would go to a variety of different yield optimizing farms and see, okay, which one is the one that gives me the highest reward for matic, right, for the matic pair. On the Equinox, you don't have to do that. You can just use your VBEL to vote it into existence. you can just will the whole protocol to just give you more rewards for the particular liquidity pool that or for the collection of assets that you like.
I see. So like if the market that's trading on Equinox, if the majority of retail liquidity providers who are looking to get more emissions see that the market's turning around, and cumulatively a lot of us start moving from stable coins into Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB to try to get some of that upside, we might move more of our liquidity into this BTCB-ETH-wrapped BNB pool here. And then those of us who have the V voting tokens would vote to have more emissions allocated to this more speculative liquidity pool. And then that way we would try to benefit not only from the upside of these tokens, but we would try to use our voting power to get more emissions dedicated to that pool as well. Am I right?
Yes. So another cool thing about that is that usually what happens when everybody apes into a particular pool is that the APR drops drastically in a very short amount of time because everyone is diluting each other's rewards, right? So this also acts as a counterbalance to that. So everybody apes into this pool, everybody thinks BTC, ETH, and BNB is going to do very well, right? So everybody apes in, the rewards get diluted, but then you have the veAEQ, which is coming in hot, just boosting, like everybody's just voting for this pool because everybody wants to ape into it, and then it's just boosting the rewards. So it somewhat counterbalances the dilution effect when a lot of capital flows into one particular area, one particular investment pool.
Interesting. I run into that in every yield farm. There you go. The APY drops as more people dilute the pool. And then I'm like, okay, get me out of here. Let me go find a different pool. And then I'm, next thing you know, I'm staking riskier and riskier assets, chasing higher APYs. It's stable pool farming. A lot, those usually get diluted the fastest. So they have the smallest amounts of emissions, obviously. But in this kind of a system, if there are a lot of people with voting power that want the stable pools to have more emissions, they could guide that to be the case, right?
Yes, correct. So that's what will naturally happen, right? Because all of the volume that goes into a particular pool, it only makes sense that all of the V voting power that is attached to that volume will follow it to that pool. So that it helps to counteract the dilution effect.
Now, what happens though to the other assets? What if? Okay,
so this is a good question.
Yeah, what happens when that liquidity drains away from the other assets that aren't getting the love from the voters?
Yeah, so it balances it. It balances itself out through incentivization. So, for example, if everybody floods out from all the various pools into the BTC Rep ETH pool, then there's less people in the other pools. But that also means that because there's less people, the rewards are less diluted. So there's always going to be a cliff of incentivization, like a level of incentivization that every single pool has, and that's considered like the base emissions. That's why you see over there on this particular page, under emissions allocations, that's the base emissions allocations. So emissions, yes. So you see where I'm going. The emissions can never fall below this value right here that you have highlighted on this column. Now, the extra APR that is garnered from using voting power through the Equinox Dynamo is on top of this.
Okay. I see now.
Okay.
So this is the base emissions allocations, and then anything else from the veAEQuinox Dynamo from the voters will add on top of that. Now, if I remember correctly, what was it, 70% of emissions are guided, or is this, or am I getting it backwards?
70% is the base. That's for all the core pools. 30% is completely voted by by the Equinox Dynamo.
Okay.
There you go. 30% of all emissions. It's constantly allocated, which means the moment any AEQ is emitted, all of the V token holders, all the V token holders can choose where it goes to.
So the 70% of all the emissions are always going to go as the base emissions to these core pools, and then the 30% of the emissions left over will be voted upon by the veAEQ token holders in the voting system. So that 30% then will get added additionally on top of this, depending on the voters and how they feel at that time.
Yep, that is correct.
Okay. Now, what is so I see we have a phase 1 for the core pools, and then there's a phase 2 that are going to be added one by one post launch. And do you want to explain why you have two separate sets of core pools and why there's a staggered rollout of some of those pools?
Okay, yeah. So if you go up to phase 1, you can scroll up to phase 1. So if you look at all these phase 1 pools, these are the most important pools that are essential for every single DEX, not just ours, to have these, right? You need the stablecoins, you need the WBNB, and then Ames BUSD and ASHARE BUSD are our native ecosystem pairings that we want to move over, because right now they're using PancakeSwap LPs, right? So we want to move them over to our DEX as soon as possible. So these are the most important pools that you to have on the DEX, and as well as the Bitcoin and the Ethereum you can see over there. Now the phase 2, if you roll down, the phase 2 you can see is more of our coins, our ecosystem coins, right? You got the Aalto, you got your Ames, you got your AEQ, like different permutations and combinations of all of these. Now these are pools that we want to have to support our ecosystem, but we don't want them to vamp TVL from the most important liquidity pools, which is why we want to roll out with the phase 1 ones first, and then we'll just add these along the way as we go, and then the entire stack will make up the core pools of Equinox eventually.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So these are your need to have pools, and these are your want to have pools,
good
basically.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's pretty much correct. Because we've been doing a bit of market research, and we've followed the launches of a few different DEXs recently. And what happens is, if they release too many farms off the bat, then the token just goes crazy, right? There's just too many people buying, too many people selling, and the volatility is just insane. So in order to mitigate that, we try to release only what's necessary first, and then add more along the way.
Okay, I see. Let's see what else. There was speaking of that, you talk about thick liquidity. Do you remember where this is? Is this here in the liquidity pool types, or I forget?
It is.
It is? Okay. So you talk about thick liquidity, and actually I think it's somewhere else. But so could you explain, I can't find it here exactly. You had a section called thick liquidity, which is kind of funny. if you ask me. I forget where it's at, but what do you mean by thick liquidity, and how does that apply to Equinox?
So the whole idea of having a very, very deep liquidity, I mean, this is the vision that every or objective that all DEXs are trying to achieve. They want to have as much TVL as possible, as much liquidity as possible. And why the reason why they do that is because, because the deeper liquidity you have, the the bigger a swap can be. So if you only have $10 one way or the other on a liquidity pool, only maximum amount you can move through the DEX is about $10. But if you have millions and millions and millions of liquidity, then you can have large swaps that happen on your DEX, and you want that trading volume. That's why you want the deep liquidity, because you want to have the ability to support large trades. When you can support large trades, you have larger trading volume. When you have larger trading volume, you have more DEX fees. When you have more DEX fees, your V token holders earn more money. So the whole point of DEX is to build and build and build and build and get all of it, all the liquidity, all.
I see. And one of the neat things about this kind of a system is, regardless of what pools people provide liquidity in, even if they make up their own pools, which we'll get to in a second, the liquidity is not trapped in pairs. They're not trapped in separate pools. Your Conflux algorithm, your Conflux contract, aggregates all of the liquidity for each asset in each of these different pairs or sets into gigantic pools. So if somebody's providing liquidity in wrapped BNB/USDC, and they're also providing liquidity in BUSD/USDC/USDT pool, your Conflux will see the total value for USDC as what's total in both of these pools. Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so I guess as a first pass approximation, what you described there is pretty much correct. So, well, yeah, the Conflux does do that. It aggregates all of the liquidity across all of the pools and across the whole DEX, and then it allows you to go from one token to another without having to multi-hop, and then suffer slippage along the way.
Okay. And so we talked about earlier how when you do that, you save on the amount of swaps necessary, because in a traditional DEX you go from one asset pair to another to the one that you finally want. So let's say it does 2 or 3 swaps. You pay for the gas every single time one of those swaps happens, and on BSC, depending on network congestion, that could be like $1 sometimes per swap. I mean, I've seen it on BSC be 40, 50 cents. I've even seen it be $1. And sometimes, especially when I first started messing around in DeFi, I would do a trade and wonder why I just paid $3 in gas fees on Binance Smart Chain. And I would go look on BSC scan, and I would see just like this mess of transactions. And I'm like, what is that? I just wanted to go from this to this. And it's because it does all these hops. And sometimes, if they don't manage their gas optimizations correctly, that cost falls on you, the retail trader. And also, there's a little bit of slippage when it goes between each of those. And there can be bots that front run that. And, markets, depending on liquidity, it's not always perfect, and you can really kind of get screwed over, especially if you're a trader and you're like, I'm going to make 5% on this trade I just made. And then you get hit with 5% of gas and slippage. And then you're just like, oh, that wasn't as lucrative as I thought it might be. So with your Conflux kind of managing all of that intelligently, it should save you on all those gas fees that, in my example, where I got hit 3 times with gas fees, I would only get hit basically 1 time. And I would also not get hit with slippage for each of those swaps as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the gas one for BSC is not so much as a problem because the fees on BSC are much lower than Ethereum. But the real money saver is like you're saving on the slippage. So I think I described this earlier as well, right? If one of the liquidity pools that you're routing through has a very low liquidity, you're suddenly out of nowhere just paying like 15% slippage or some ridiculous number. So that's on traditional DEXs. But because of the whole Conflux system and because this part of our DEX manages all of that for you. You essentially just do the swap once, and then you don't have to suffer slippage so many times. And also you only pay swap fees once.
Got it. And with that, could you explain how that helps protect against front running? So a lot of people new to the space might hear the word front running bot and not know what it means or how it applies to a DEX. Could you explain how the Aequinox DEX protects against front running?
Sure. So, like we mentioned a bit before, the Aequinox DEX does protect against front running because most of the pools use oracles in order to fetch price. So it is close to impossible to try and attach a front running bot to the DEX, unless the front running bot is also at the same time trying to like have oracle with the exact same information, trying to track the price and stuff. So it's possible to do, but not impossible to do, but very unlikely that somebody will be bothered to do on it. I mean, they can just run the vanilla script on Pancake or whatever it is. So much easier, and it achieves the same thing, right? So why would they just go through so much extra effort just to put it on our DEX? So that's one. Now the second thing is every single pool, swap fees can be modulated or changed basically on every single pool. So as you can see right there on the page that you have now, see you have different runners, right? You got 1%, 0.3, and 0.5 and all that. So on the pools that we suspect to have less liquidity, when I say less liquidity, I mean I'm comparing it to the liquidity that stablecoin pools usually have, which is most of the time is the most monumental. So the liquidity pools that we feel might have lesser liquidity, we increase the swap fees a little bit so that arbitrage bots have a very, very, very difficult time or front running bots have a very, very difficult time trying to outrun someone for gas. Like it's just not going to be profitable for them because they're paying the swap fee as well as trying to earn like what 12 cents on a trade or something.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So with so this kind of a DEX will help mitigate not only like flash loan attacks because of how you're using the Oracle time weighted average pricing, but it's also going to help prevent front running on your swaps as well. And let's see. What about arbitrage? So arbitrage is something people hear all the time out here. How is arbitrage factored in to your DEX and pricing and liquidity pools?
So actually, a lot of people have a slight misconception on what arbitrage does, but actually arbitrage is the way DEXs work. That it's supposed to happen because the market is supposed to decide, is supposed to be incentivized to take advantage of arbitrage opportunities in order to keep the price of a specific asset constant across many different pools. So the way that some people think it's a negative thing because they have experiences where maybe they're in a low liquidity pool and there's just this arbitrage bot just suppressing the price. But at the same time, it's boosting price of the pool that is arbitraging from, right? So DEXs actually do need arbitrage bots in order to function. I won't say well, but in order to keep prices accurate. For our case, it's actually extremely difficult to attach an arbitrage bot. And also, like I mentioned earlier, about the swap fees, if an arbitrage bot wants to perform that action and earn from that arbitrage, it has to be profitable enough to make money after paying gas, after paying the swap fee. So that's quite unlikely in most of the scenarios that you will find on the Aequinox DEX. Also, I think that's a sufficient answer. I mean, we could go into the details on like how arbitrage works and all of that stuff, but it doesn't really. It's not going to contribute to the quality of the educational element of this part. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is, essentially what I'm trying to say is the arbitrage is not going to be profitable for people to run ARPODs.
I see.
And the Conflux already does a lot of the internal arbitraging because of the way that it accounts for all the tokens. Yeah.
Now, what if an arbitrageur, I like that word that you used here, somebody who seeks to make a profit off of price discrepancies and opportunities like that across different DEXs and different marketplaces. I see you have a section here about flash loans, that you have a mechanism to allow people to use flash loans on the Aequinox DEX to take advantage of arbitrage opportunities that they may have identified. Do you want to talk about that briefly?
Sure. So like I was saying earlier, arbitrage in and of itself isn't really a negative thing because it keeps prices accurate across a set of different liquidity pools. Now, the thing about flash loans is that they open up a very specific vulnerability to DEXs or liquidity managers that don't use time-weighted average price. But in our case, we use time-weighted average price to that for that. And I think you mentioned this before as well. Having everything spot price means that you're open to flash loan attacks, but that isn't the case with the Equinox.
Got it. And you do have a flash loan mechanism here where somebody could do a flash loan with Equinox to, like, this is actually a functionality you provide to traders, right? Like you allow flash loans as another revenue generating means for Equinox. Am I getting that right?
Not on the UI directly, but people, look, roughly speaking, most of the people who try to use flash loans for to gain yield or profit, they're very tech savvy because it requires at least a preliminary understanding of like how the blockchain works. So usually people who want to use flash loans, they will interact directly with the blockchain and they'll just call the function right there. So
yeah,
it generally doesn't affect the average retail investor.
Got it. So if anybody's interested in this, if they are a more tech savvy person, they can look into the documentation on how to do that. And so I think we've covered a lot of stuff here. You've got some kind of interesting, more complicated topics here, like the Merkle tree reward structures. I don't know if that's anything you want to touch on or if that's just like way too in the weeds for people.
That's just a bit too in the weeds. I think this particular section that you're on the white paper is more for developers. So like projects that want to build on our DEX, right? Yeah, they can go through all of this and they would have a much better understanding of how the whole thing works. And then from there, they can understand what kind of flexibility they have when they build on our DEX. And then, they can see what options they have rather than being limited to the vanilla 50/50 liquidity pools. Like, this is all you can do with your liquidity. Because of the way that our whole infrastructure is set up, they can do a lot more things.
Got it. Now, in terms of something that a retail or just like an end user would interact with, you have this Dow Governance section, and do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So one of the things that veAEQ token holders will be eligible for is Dow Governance. So I'm sure everybody has done a DAO vote before. So what it does is it recognizes the amount of V tokens you have, and then based on that, that's your voting power. So certain proposals that will come up, from the community, if like certain community initiatives and let's say proposals are very well thought out and make sense, then we can put it up to the DAO vote and let the veAEQ holders decide how to move forward with the protocol. Now, I think the most popular thing that this will be used for is like determining swap fees or determining, let's say, emissions for certain pools and mostly swap fees. That was the most commonly decided factor for Beats and for Balancer when they had their DAO voting.
Okay, so
yeah,
something that the DAO could be used for is modifying these values here, the swap
Mm-hmm.
fees for the different core pools, and what the emission allocations, the default emissions allocations.
No. The default emissions allocations they can't, but the additional ones from the Equinox Dynamo they can. And then on top of that, if they, let's say, for example, a very big partner comes along, or let's say a project comes along, and they would like to be part of the core pools, meaning they receive AEQ emissions. Then we go up to the committee and say, okay, look, guys, this project wants to join us. Do you think they should be able to be part of the core pools? If you pass the vote, then we'll bring them in. We'll give them some of the rewards, because in some sense that's also up to the liquidity providers, right? Because having some other project as part of the core pools will take away, even though very slightly, it will take away rewards from the other pools. So that's what the whole Dow governance purpose are. It's like you guys can decide who do you want to come in, whether or not their liquidity is cool, that kind of thing.
I see. All right. And would this be through the V system that we talked about, people with the veAEQ tokens?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
So only V holders will have governance rights. So this is to prevent people from, like, let's say some guy just buys 10 million tokens off the market and they say, oh, now I have infinite voting rights, and then immediately after the vote they can dump, right? So in order to prevent that, only V token holders will be able to participate in the DAO voting.
And their voting strength. So just to clarify, to get these V tokens, they have to lock up some AEQ / wrapped BNB tokens. So they have to stake.
Yes, correct.
They have to stake something in the AEQ wrapped BNB liquidity pools, and they will get a receipt token. And is that, do you call those APT tokens?
Yeah, APTs. APTs are basically just LP tokens on traditional DEXs, but they're called APTs because ours is called the Equinox Pool Tokens. So it's just APTs, yeah.
Okay,
that's
so
the receipt token that we see.
Equinox Pool Tokens are like your receipt token, and you can then lock those APT tokens from that Equinox wrapped BNB pool, and you can stake those APT tokens for 14, 30, 60, 90, or 365 days to get the voting tokens, veAEQ.
Yep.
And it says here the amount of strength, or like the weight of your voting power, is a combination of how many V tokens you have and for how long you've staked them. Is that right?
Yes. So the more you stake and the longer you stake, the more power you have.
Got it.
So you can think of it like that's why I call it the dynamo, right? Because it's like you're charging up this power that you have, and then the more that you put in, the more power you have, and then it decays over time. So you can recharge it by adding to your stake or relocking, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So if there was some like big whale out there who really wants to be like the Equinox liquidity provider, who wants to like get the most out of your DEX, he could stake a ton in the AEQ wrapped BNB pool, get those APT tokens, lock them up for a year, and then basically he could have the power to guide so many of the votes towards whichever pool he likes the most. So like, in the core pools here, let's say he's like, I want to be a stable coin farmer here. He could put a ton of he could basically get a ton of these V tokens, stake them for a long time so they're super powerful, and then use that voting power to guide extra emissions to whichever pools he's privy to, or likes the most at that time.
Yep. So that is possible. So that's an interesting point you brought up. So he can do that. Now, there is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Solidly or Solid Sex on Phantom, but that's exactly what they wanted. So what it allows in this Equinox setup is other projects who want to maximize this V system, they can create entire protocols just to provide liquidity to us, so that they can get a lot of V voting power. So and that's beneficial for the DEX because then it's just massive amounts of trading volume and a whole lot of people buying the AEQ token. So it's definitely
so
you see what
I see. So I remember another protocol out there saying we're going to get all of the governance voting tokens for all these other protocols, and we are going to direct them how we see fit to benefit our protocol. And that was like one of their main selling points and strategies. So if one of these governance token hounds out here says, hey, we're coming for Aequinox and we're going to take over your voting, your governance voting pools and everything, you welcome that because it just basically incentivizes them to give you liquidity, to give you deeper liquidity, so it's a better trading experience for everybody, and then your liquidity providers also end up earning more emissions, and it just kind of benefits everybody, right?
That is correct. So you want that you welcome large liquidity providers to come in because look, the entry point is that you must first provide liquidity for AEQ-WBNB. And how do you get that? You have to buy AEQ. So not only you're like helping to boost the price of AEQ, but at the same time you're providing a much deeper liquidity. You're contributing to max TVL, and you're allowing larger swaps to occur on the DEX itself, which increases trading volume, which then increases rewards for the veAEQ holders. So it's like, yeah, sure, come in with your millions, come in with your whale amounts. It's fine because your tokens are locked and you're providing liquidity to the entire system, which is exactly what a DEX is designed for.
So your whale strategy is welcome them because they help everybody in this ecosystem.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Because it's the simple act of them joining, they're already buying so much of the market, right? That's all of those is like swap fees, trading fees, and all of that, and then higher, deeper liquidity. It benefits all the V token holders, including themselves. Right, when they come in, once they come in, they have to lock the token, so they're going to be V token holders. So they're also incentivized not to be bad actors in the system because the main stake that they have is for the AEQ token.
I see, and that's actually some of my security questions here that I want to run through real quick here. I know a lot of people that watch my channel like how I ask security related questions about protocols. That was one of my questions, is what's your whale management strategy? And so we just went over that. You welcome them and their involvement helps everybody out in your DEX. So with that being said, just to get familiar with your team, who else is on the team and what countries are you all based in, if you don't mind my asking?
So yeah, sure, no problem. So I'm from Singapore. I'm based in Singapore now. I was born and bred here, born and raised here. But I have moved around quite a bit, so I'm kind of like a mongrel. I've lived in many different countries. At this particular time, I'm based in Singapore. And then Briz, who is our lead dev, is in America. He's in the USA. He lives in Philly. I won't tell you guys exactly where he is, but he's from the USA. And then our graphic designer, Corteza, is from Portugal. And then our community manager, Fox, is he's Dutch, so he's from the Netherlands. So all first world countries, nobody from Timbuktu or, I don't know, Tanzania.
And these are the same, this is the same team behind Ames DeFi and Aalto protocol, correct?
Yep. Correct. Same team as Ames DeFi, Aalto protocol. All of our previous projects were all audited. All of our contracts are audited, and we've all been KYC'd by ASHARE DeFi. So as far as KYC goes, we're settled. And then for auditing, we have not audited the Equinox DEX yet, but that's because we do not want to reveal the smart contract to the public, because right now, if you do that, then people will just go there and try to just randomly make liquidity and stuff, and they'll mess with our testing and our all of that. So we're gonna hold off on that, and then once the initial liquidity is formed and everything, and then we'll go for that audit.
Okay, good to know. Those were you covered my next questions. Who you guys KYC'd with? You said ASHARE DeFi, and you can see those audits or those KYCs if you go to the docs for Ames or Aalto. I believe your KYCs are
Aalto
in there, and those will
you
also.
can go to Aalto.
What's that?
Yeah, you can go to Aalto's one. Yeah, this one. Right there. There you go. Right at the top.
There you go. Yeah, so if anybody wants to see their ASHARE DeFi KYC, it's right here under Aalto. Here it is. And I have covered this in another video. I did a deep dive on the Aalto protocol. I went over all this, and their core team here are all from tier 1 countries. That's something a lot of people have been talking about lately. You know, what tier country are you guys all from? And tier 1, for those who don't know, means strong law enforcement with the capabilities and resources to effectively legislate and pursue crypto-related cybercrimes. So what that means is if any of you guys did any funny business, anything nefarious, your asses would be on the line. So that's good that you're all from tier 1 countries here.
We've been around for a while. I think we've been around for a while, man. We've had we've been around for a while. Close to 6 months now. We've been running Ames DeFi pegged, man. We're pegged. It's a hard thing to do in this market. Aalto protocol trading sideways, holding strong, and yeah, man.
Yeah, and I've known you for many months now. So
there we
for
go.
Anybody curious, I have video chatted with Nice Person here, aka Jules, many times. We have spent hours, literally many hours, video chatting about all sorts of DeFi topics, about Aalto, about Ames, and now about Equinox. And so, you know, you're somebody who I've made tweets about. You know, you've donated to, like, when Hair Finance got rugged, you actually lent our mutual friend Josh, who got screwed over in that situation when his developer rugged and ran off with the pre-sale money, basically. You put up a bunch of money to help Josh pay back those community members, and you didn't have to do that, but you did it anyway, and I found out about it, so I put you on blast. I tell everybody about that. I'm like, yeah, Nice Person's literally a nice person. Like, I guess
I didn't do that for me, man. Josh is a good friend of mine, and we met way back when I was trying to hustle him on a radius of DeFi AMA price. But we became fast friends. Yeah, we became fast friends after that, and I don't think he deserved what happened to him. So I was happy to help, man.
I agree. Josh is also one of my good friends out here, and when I saw people like you stepping up to help him out when he got hurt financially really bad in that, and seeing people like you come out of the community to step up and kind of help him out, really, you know, that meant a lot to me, because he's also my good friend out here, somebody I talk to about just anything, basically, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, man, everybody knows now, right? DeFi is the wild, wild west, and there's way too many bandits out here and not enough sheriffs. So
absolutely, and that's also why, you know, I'm always when there's somebody that I think is trying to do cool stuff out here, I am much more ready to work with them, especially you. I've worked with you in the past. We've video chatted. I know you personally. So when you say, hey, I've got something really cool, I'm like, okay, everybody says that. But when you tell me something like that, I'm like, all right, I'm listening. What do you got for me? And this is pretty interesting, man. I have never seen a Balancer-style DEX on Binance Smart Chain. So bringing something like this is New. It's needed. I think there's a demand for something like this in the Binance Smart Chain market. Do you agree?
I 100% agree. That was a large portion of the reason, because in our preliminary market research, the money flowing into DeFi it has been going down since the portion of the market share for DeFi has been going down since June, but DEXs seem to be doing all right. So it's more projects like the Toonfox, like Rebases, Ohmfox, and all of that stuff. I think there are many other kind of DeFi projects, right, that have seasons, but DEXs have amaranthine utility. They're always useful because you got to put your liquidity somewhere, right? So if you run a good DEX and you have deep liquidity and you're trusted, and you know you're around for a while and you're having good yields, there will always be a demand for liquidity provision. and there will always be a demand for a platform that that does it well. And also, if a Balancer-style infrastructure is a great improvement over the vanilla Uniswap and PancakeSwap. So on Binance Smart Chain in particular, I felt that there's definitely a void to be filled in the market with a Balancer-style DEX. So that's where we ideated that from, and we have made it happen.
Yeah, there's a hole in the market, and you are looking to be the ones to fill that gap. And I'm glad it's coming from somebody I know, like you, who I don't want to say like, anything's guaranteed, but like I am very confident in you running a protocol that you're going to do it earnestly. And so as much as I can tell my audience, like, is this a team that I trust? You have probably one of my highest levels of trust out here, because I've worked with you for so long. I've known you. We video chat all the time, and you're running two of the most popular protocols right now on BSC that I am in both of these protocols. And the community, I think, for the people who know you and your team, you guys have a very high confidence level with your team, or with the community. So that's one of the sections I like to cover in my AMAs and my project reviews, is who is the team and what's the trust level here. So you guys have some of my highest trust level out here. Don't screw me on that, nice person. All right.
Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it, man, Alex. It's your reputation is hard to earn on DeFi. It really is. Because
yeah, it is.
Because you can't prove it with any pre-existing, like, oh, I'm qualified for this, I have this degree or something. What you have is literally people have to watch you not rock for a long ass time, and then you become trusted. So yeah,
I agree. It's hard to build that reputation, and so that's something I want to just wanted to go over with the viewers here. Now, with all that being said, like, you can have the best reputation, everybody can know you, but there are a few other things that people look for. We talked about the KYC. You said your audits, you're going to do audits here, but you don't want to do them just yet because you don't want people to start messing with the contracts while you're finishing up testing. But you do plan on audits, right?
Yep, for sure. I think we'll probably go with Paladin or Obelisk. Don't really like Certic. Is a little bit too expensive for the price point. Like, their price point doesn't make sense sometimes, and then they just ask for astronomical amounts of money. But their quality of their audits are equivalent to quite other industry giants like Paladin. I think OX Guard is pretty good as well. They have a good track record as well, and they I think we have a pre-existing relationship with them. One of our Ames contracts was audited by OX Guard as well. If and when we have this launchpad incubator that we want to attach to our DEX, they will come up as affiliate partners, and they will give discounts to people that launch through our DEX as well. So yeah, I think most probably Paladin, OX Guard, one of those.
Okay, and then you said any projects that launch through your launchpad and use your DEX will also have the option for your audit partner and KYC partners here through Aegis audits. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
that particular section you see there, the KYC audit partners, it will be populated. The reason why only Aegis audits is there right now is because they have been the easiest to work with previously, and we have a pre-existing relationship with them. We did have a partnership with them for Aalto protocol when they first launched, so they're already there. But OX Guard, I think TechRate, ASHARE, as well as, well, not Paladin, but one of the others, Fox is the one managing all of that. But they have already pledged to be affiliate partners of ours. So we help them get business, right, from the projects that want to launch with us, and then at the same time they provide discounts to the people that we funnel through them to them.
Gotcha. And then are you using multi-sigs or time locks on your project's contracts or wallets?
Yep. All of the wallets, like the treasury wallets or any different kind of wallets that we use for any interaction with the project, are all under multi-sigs. This is all public knowledge. It's not just me saying shit. Like on the existing Ames and Aalto sites. You can see all of the wallet addresses there. People have checked them out and stuff. And we even have a channel in our Discord that posts protocol transactions, for example, like buybacks, burns, sells, all that kind of thing. So airdrops, you know, things that people want to see proof of. Yeah, we have that there.
Cool. Very cool. And let's see. Is your liquidity locked? This is kind of an interesting question for you, because you're a DEX. Is your liquidity locked?
Okay, so for Aalto, this is a difficult question to answer, but DEXs don't have the concept of locking everyone's liquidity. But if the point of your question is to ascertain whether or not we have the ability to pool the liquidity,
yeah,
the answer is no. We don't have the ability to pull liquidity out of the contract. What we can do though is help projects who launch with us, or simply not just launch, right? If they just want to host their liquidity on our DEX, we will have a liquidity locker, where they can just lock their APT tokens there if they so decide, if they so wish to.
Got it. So technically, you guys can't touch the liquidity that liquidity providers stake in your DEX. You can't just pull it and run off to Timbuktu. That it's safe in the contract. The only way to get that out is when the actual person who provided the liquidity decides to withdraw it. Is that correct?
Yes. So yeah, you can put it that way. If you have 10,000 liquidity and you are the one who interacted with the UI and the dapp and the smart contract, only you can extract it.
Got it. All right, cool. And when you guys do have your Launchpad and other projects trading that have launched on your DEX, you will provide a liquidity locker mechanism so they can lock a portion of their liquidity that's in your contract for, X amount of time.
Yep, that's yeah. So it's liquidity locking as a service. There's like a small nominal fee. I think it's like 1 BNB or something. That's the average. A lot of liquidity lockers exist out there, so ours will be native to us, such that anybody who comes through us or projects who want to build on our platform, they don't have to use external third-party vendors or projects in order to lock their liquidity or do all of the necessary security things that people usually do when they launch a project.
Gotcha. And what do you think are the biggest risks for participants in your project?
Okay, so this is quite an interesting question, because very frequently the biggest risk when people yield farm or liquidity mine on DEXs in particular, or anywhere that has liquidity mining, the biggest risk is that impermanent loss, right? So as we talked about before, this is somewhat mitigated or very heavily mitigated by the fact that the Conflux aggregates all the stuff that we've been talking about for the past couple of hours. Impermanent loss, in the case of Equinox, would fall more onto the investor rather than on the protocol itself, because the protocol already does the best that it can in order to mitigate impermanent loss through the way that the Conflux works, right? And the way that the DEX, the smart order router, moves tokens and around to people who want to either deposit or withdraw. The only remaining risk that you have is how volatile do you think this particular asset is, and how much of it do you want to expose yourself to? Which is exactly why the weighted pools concept is so in demand. Like there's a huge demand for it, because you can control your exposure to a certain crypto coin. So if you want to expose yourself heavily to Bitcoin because you think there's immense upside to Bitcoin, then go ahead and make a 90% Bitcoin pool, paired with like 10% something else. But if you want to have less Bitcoin something else, you can also do that on our DEX. So that's the whole idea there, is that your portfolio rebalances itself, and at the same time you're earning liquidity mining reports because you're putting it into a system that allows for aggregated liquidity across all the pools.
I see. So one of the biggest risks that you see is that people create their own portfolio that might not be successful.
Optimized for the market conditions. Yeah, correct.
Exactly. But that's any trader or investor faces that when they're putting together their portfolio, whether it's going to be a success or not. So really that's, how they set it up. And that's not so much a systemic risk on Aequinox's side, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So, I mean, with that great control that you have over your own portfolio comes the inherent responsibility for you to calculate your own risk. So, you decide how we just provide the platform, right? For you can put as many tokens, up to 8 tokens into a single portfolio you want. You can choose the ratios that you want. You can adjust your exposure levels. You can choose whatever coin you want and put it on there. But with that freedom comes the responsibility that you have to control your own risk.
I see. Okay. And so I guess one of the risks that I might see, and that I see in every project, as much as we want to say it's always decentralized, trustless, peer-to-peer kind of stuff, there's always some kind of centralization involved generally. Very rarely there's not. So my next question is, would your project still be able to function if any of your team members left the project to do something else, or if they, couldn't, be part of the project anymore for any hypothetical reason? Would the project still survive?
Sure. Yes. So the short answer is yes. Operationally, the project will still continue to run if any of us has to leave for whatever reason. And then it's simply a matter of logistically how you onboard the new person and then offboard the old person. But yeah, right now all you have is a nice person. So
so it wouldn't be impossible if somebody had to switch positions with somebody else. It wouldn't be impossible.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Like if it's similar to how the real work, like CEOs or anything leave and they come in. I guess the success of the protocol is also in part dependent on the performance of the one taking over. So there's also that aspect which nobody can predict. But if you're asking about operationally whether the project can continue to run if entire team changes, yeah, it's still possible.
Okay, and I guess that's. I like to look at projects not just from like a 3 or 6 month perspective, but 1 year, 3 years, 5 years out, 10 years out. Could this still be a thing? So I like to understand if there's the ability and possibility for like a handoff of positions, if anything were to happen. What's the continuity strategy? Just like you were saying with any other business in the real world. What's the policies there? So you're saying it wouldn't be the death knell for the protocol if somebody needed to be replaced. It would keep chugging along just fine as long as they were competent and everything like that.
Yep. Essentially, yes. It'll be able to continue on.
My next question is, would your project survive if this bear market continues longer?
Oh yeah, for sure. So the entire DEXs seem to do pretty well during bear markets, as compared to other DeFi projects. Because if you class DEXs under the umbrella of DeFi projects, DEXs outperform many other types of projects during the bear market in terms of TVL, one, and also longevity, like survivability. So a lot of problem you have with most DeFi projects, this isn't new to anybody, right? We're in the freaking Wild West. They just can't survive for that long. But DEXs, because of the inherent utility and the inherent demand for a platform that allows liquidity provision, they will always be useful, no matter whether bear or bull. Now, if I were to tie this back to Aequinox in particular, specifically, since we have these stable coins that are stablecoin pools that earn yield that are very, very attractive to large liquidity providers, it's like if everybody wants to get into stable coins right during the bear market, yeah, you can do so here. And then you also have the choice to choose other risk-on assets like altcoins, or maybe even our ecosystem coins like Ames and ASHARE and Aalto. You can do that as well. But at the same time, you have the option to go for that stablecoin pool where you want your safe returns on an asset that doesn't move and is pegged to the US dollar.
So, in layman's terms, DEXs are evergreen. They're always needed, right?
Yeah, that's
bull or bear market.
Exactly.
That's what people use out here to trade, and this, they all keep generating DEX fees, trading fees, and people can still provide liquidity to earn yield, basically in a less risky environment than some of the projects that I mess around in out here in the degen world. So I think the main reason for that is because DEXs capture the entire spectrum of risk, right? You have your stablecoin pools, which is extremely low risk, but at the same time, anybody can form just a pair of random shitcoins, and excuse my language, but anybody can just form a bunch of random high risk assets and then put that up as liquidity to try and farm on them as well. So generally, roughly speaking, your risk has to match your reward, right? Now, because of the nature of the way DEXs work, and in Equinox's case in particular, because you can choose what assets you want to combine as well as the ratios of which assets you want to combine, you can try and create a portfolio that is maximally designed to exploit high yield with extremely high reward. High risk with extremely high reward. So if you have a bunch of very, very, very volatile assets that you think will all go up, you can make a liquidity pool of that, put it up for liquidity mining rewards, and then if all of them go up, then it's a tremendous upside. But at the same time, if you want to have a portion of your portfolio that you don't want to move at all, why would you just have stablecoins just sitting in your wallet? Might as well just pair them up on the Equinox DEX, put it to work, and let it earn yield for you. Now, your last statement I heard many times with the Terra Luna ecosystem. People were saying, put your stable coins to work, farm them out, so can a Terra Luna type situation happen here with Aequinox DEX?
No. Okay. So the short answer is no. The thing is, if for those of you who know exactly what happened during the Do Kwon meltdown, the whole reason why that was, it's a mix of, and choose my words very carefully. I don't think it was fully malicious. I don't think it was fully incompetent. It's like a move. It's like a mix of both. And where it stemmed from is he was able to pool a massive amount of liquidity because he wanted to do an OTC deal with a couple of people, right? Now that's impossible because we can't just pull liquidity from the entire DEX in order to do that OTC deal. So if you want your AEQ, you have to earn it through providing liquidity. You can't just mint it out of thin air like you can like UST was able to do.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good answer. Okay. So this theoretically, could it doesn't have that same
vulnerability,
risk,
it doesn't.
Vulnerability that the whole Terra Luna ecosystem had with their stablecoin, yield farming platform. So this, I don't want to say anything safer or not safer than another, but this doesn't have that same risk vector exactly. Yep. So good. Good to hear. Now, okay, so those are my security questions. So what's your long-term vision for the project, and where do you see it in like 1 or 2 or 5 years?
We want to conquer BSC. That's what we want to do. We're filling this void in the market, and we think we can capture the market share of all DEXs on BSC because we just provide a superior model to whatever they're doing right now. So PancakeSwap, watch out, I'm coming for you.
All right, you guys heard it here first. They're coming for PancakeSwap. They're coming for all of BSC. And
we want all of it, bro. We want all the liquidity. We want all of it. Everybody just come to Big Daddy Equinox and just chill out here in our yield farming system, and then get your voting power vote for your favorite pools.
Now, we talked about this at the beginning, and just to wrap some things up here, when can we see Aequinox live and in action, and when can I start staking some of this stuff in the liquidity pools to earn these emissions?
Okay, so we are slated to launch on the 8th of August. Everything seems to be going well as far as time frame wise. We don't suspect there to be any need to delay launch. So if everything goes well, we will launch on the 8th of August. On the 7th of August is the cutoff point for the liquidity VCs. So you'd have to pledge the amount that your capital investment that you want sent to us, and then we'll register you under the VC program, and then we'll take your wallet addresses and stuff like that. And then for the landing page, there should be one in a couple of hours actually, and then I'll send it to you, Alex, and then I'll let you play around with it, and then you can do your clicking and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So
I think by the time this video comes out or is published, you should be able to access that already actually.
So you'll have your website up in the next few hours. And it's going to take me a little bit to get this video uploaded to YouTube. So the website should be up. The contracts won't be live until they're deployed to mainnet on the 8th. Is that correct, you said?
Yes.
The 8th, okay.
Yes, that's correct.
And the liquidity VC round for the seed funding goes until the 7th. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And then on the 7th, we do the cutoff 24 hours earlier, right? Because we don't want to do last minute stuff. So you do 7th, we gather up, and then we see, okay, how much liquidity can we do initially? And then from there, we'll combine it with the initial mint. And then we will go full force on the 8th with our initial liquidity. And then all of the yield farming starts, and the ball starts to roll.
Sounds good. So, is there anything else that you want to talk about before we wrap things up?
I think we covered a lot of things very, very in depth here, and I just want to say I really appreciate you giving me the platform to talk about all this stuff. Usually my AMAs last a lot shorter, so I don't know, man. Sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. But I'm glad I got to go through a lot of the technicalities of the entire thing, and really. I'm looking forward, man, to this, because this will be our best product yet in our ecosystem. And I think, like I mentioned in the beginning of the AMA, the Equinox DEX is going to act like a centerpin to our entire ecosystem because it's a product that can weather a bear or a bull market. So it's definitely going to be, it's going to take center stage for our. It's like going to be like the sun, which everything revolves around. And then from there, you can see where the naming came in, right? Because and Equinox is exactly the moment where the sun crosses from one portion of the earth to the other. So
this is a turning point for your entire ecosystem, where this is going to shine the brightest and then turn a new chapter in your whole ecosystem. Is that right?
In BSC, yeah.
In BSC. All right. And for people who are wondering, we touched on this earlier, this will also support Ames and Aalto in different ways, correct?
Yeah. Okay. So there's the Dex Fee Structure, right? So the protocol earns fees in many, many different ways. Not sure if we've talked about this before, but yeah, the protocol earns Dex fees in different ways. You got the swap fees, then you got the flash loan interest fees, and then you got the just general trading fees that accumulate through people using the service of the DEX. So all of that, 50% of all of that just gets redistributed back, is used to, this is an important point, 50% of all those fees accumulated is used to buy AEQ off the market, which means, price support, and then is distributed back to V token holders. So so by being a V token holder, you get access to dividends from all of the protocol DEX fees. 50% is actually quite a high amount. There's another, I think Beats has 30%. Yeah, so 50% is actually quite high. And then 30% in our case, 30% is going to be used to support the price of Aalto and ASHARE and Ames whenever it's below peg. So you can think of that 30% as slowly accumulating in a spot, And then when it's needed to protect the price of Ames, let's say in the event of a DPEG, it can be instantaneously activated. And in the meantime, it will slowly automatically buy back Aalto and ASHARE as well.
Awesome. All right, good to know. I know a lot of people in both of those communities are going to like hearing that.
Yeah, we got a lot of people on this, man. A lot of people are waiting for it to come out. I can't wait to share the link and the landing page and stuff. I think Quadrizer did a fantastic job with his visual, with his visual design and stuff, and his styling of the DEX. I really like the way it looks, so I can't wait to share that with you, man.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. And one other thing I'm looking forward to that you touched on is you are also planning at some point through Aequinox a shorting, an ability to short different tokens in DeFi. So do you want to explain that real quick?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the roadmap, right? You can see we want to do a couple of different things here. And I think the two differentiators that we have that will be unique to us and will be our competitive edge versus all other DEXs will be this short long platform where you can short some coins or long some coins, and there'll be a mechanism to provide that service for you to do that. And this NFT staking platform is going to be huge because right now there isn't really a very good NFT marketplace on BSC. So we're going to fill that market gap. One. Second thing is, there's a whole lot of NFT projects out there right now with just JPEGs. And just what do you do with a JPEG? You literally just look at it. So now with this NFT staking platform, they can come to our platform and they can turn those NFTs instantaneously into yield generating NFTs. So they'll be able to stake their NFTs on our platform, and they'll earn some rewards from that in the form of the AEQ token. Now, obviously, we're not going to do this for free, right? They're going to have to pay a fee to the protocol, as well as provide liquidity in the AEQ-WBNB pool. So every single project that we onboard for this service will be helping out our ecosystem, deepening our liquidity, driving trading volume through our entire DEX, and increasing our exposure to the rest of BSC. So this is part of our war conquest, bro. Take over everything.
Interesting. And with this, so that's very interesting. I don't even understand how all that would work. Maybe we can save that for another time to get really into the weeds on the NFT staking platform. That sounds pretty cool. I just recently got some NFTs from some other BSC projects, and so when I heard that, I'm like, maybe I could, benefit from that somehow. And and then also shorting. Like I see all these all these super degen projects sort of, a lot of them pop off randomly, especially ones with low liquidity. And if I see something go up like 100, 200% in a day, I'm like, oh, I wish I could short that because that's coming back down. And it almost always does. And I don't know. I just think that's something that a lot of people out here always talk about, wishing they could short DeFi projects. So if you pull that off, I'm going to be excited about that too.
I can talk about this forever, actually, but I'm just going to condense it to about a minute here. It's pretty cool. So I was looking into short long platforms a little bit, right? And most of the time, they're all very centralized. And the reason for that is because there has to be a pool of money, essentially, that supports both positions, right? Either shorting or longing. Now, the thing is, there is a way for it to become decentralized. So that means no initial capital or giant pool of money is needed in order to support a short long platform. There is a way to do it decentralized. So it's a little bit like player versus player. Like a whole bunch of people think it's going to go up and a whole bunch of people think it's going to go down. And then your odds are stacked against each other. And then there's like a whole different calculation that follows that through. So it's a pretty cool way to set up that entire thing. And I'm actually looking forward to building that. That's going to be another Asian math afternoon, man. But it's going to be really fun to figure out the exact mechanics of how that's going to work. So yeah, that's something that I've always wanted to have. And now that we have this platform for Equinox DEX, seems like the perfect place to put it, man.
Well, I think that'd be super fun, and I am interested to see how you plan on pulling that one off. I know you're kind of a math whiz, and some of the stuff you talk about and explain to me, and I have a computer science engineering degree. I'm like one math class away from a a minor in mathematics, and some of the stuff you talk about goes over my head. So this is I'm excited just to see how you do this. Obviously you're doing some cool stuff out here. So if you tell me you can pull this off, I believe it. So with that being said, what else do you see? What else do you want to tell any viewers? Do you have anything else you want to say today before I post this video?
Well, I think the most time pressuring one would be for the liquidity VCs. If anyone's really interested, please do try and contact us, and then just let us know that YaBonks sent you, and so we know how beautiful his green eyes are, and then yeah, LFG man, guys, it's gonna be really fun.
Well, thanks for that, and I'm excited for this. Yeah, and if anybody else needs help getting in touch with them, if they want to get in on the Series A or B VC rounds, you can also contact me. I talk to nice person basically every day out here. So, get in touch with either of us. I think this is going to be a cool project. There's nothing like this on BSC right now. And, you guys are basically an all-star team right now out here. You've got 2 large communities, and I am excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, so am I, man, brother. Thanks a lot, man, for letting me be here.
Yeah, and thank you for so much of your time. I know I've literally kept you up all night. I talked to you for hours before we did this, and then we've just went on 2 hours for this AMA. So I think you need to go get some sleep now.
Oh no, back to work, brother. No sleep.
We're cut from the same cloth, it sounds like. So on that note, I will catch you later, and thanks again for so much of your time.
Thanks, brother. I look forward to catching up with you again.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.